What a time to be alive watching WWE, man. That Ruthless Aggression era was sensational, man. I think the Ruthless Aggression era is the best era in WWE history, even better than the Attitude Era. The Attitude Era was the most popular era, but the Ruthless Aggression era, I think, had better match quality by far. Definitely had consistently better WrestleManias, even though we mostly consider WrestleMania 17 to be the GOAT WrestleMania. The other Attitude Era WrestleManias weren't really that great. Ruthless Aggression Era WrestleManias consistently for years, from WrestleMania 19 all the way to WrestleMania 24, had zero misses. All those WrestleManias were either great all-time WrestleManias or very good WrestleManias. Not to mention, the Ruthless Aggression Era was able to take some stars from the Attitude Era and make them better in the Ruthless Aggression Era. Take guys who were mid-card guys in the Attitude Era, make them into top stars in the Ruthless Aggression Era, and, create their own new fresh stars that weren't even in the previous era, but in that era as well, simultaneously. So, I think the Ruthless era is the GOAT era, but today we're not here to talk about the best matches, the best storylines. This video is strictly about the top 10 best superstars in that era. In no particular order, it was just too hard for me to put it in order, but I'm going to talk about the 10 best superstars that I believe came out of that era. Before we start though, make sure you guys subscribe, like, share, comment below. Would greatly appreciate it, man. The channel continues to grow, so I appreciate the support. Also, be on the lookout for the No Name Wrestling podcast that is also on this channel. If you subscribe, we allow viewers to come in and engage, to be a part of the show from time to time, to come chat with us, even debate, to have little friendly debates. Some people want to come in and conversate about pro wrestling. This is the page that allows that. So make sure you guys subscribe, like, share, comment below, and let me know how you feel about this list. Some people might agree with this list. Honestly, I don't see how people couldn't agree with the names that I'm going to name, so let's dive into it. So you remember in the beginning of this video when I said that there were superstars that were in the Attitude Era that, had better careers in the Ruthless Aggression Era? Undertaker is one of those people. Even though he was a top star in both eras, he was better in the Ruthless Aggression Era, had better matches, especially at WrestleMania, and this guy was in his 40s, but really peaked, to have the best matches of his career, in my opinion. And when it comes to storytelling, you can go back and forth because he was a part of some great stories in the Attitude Era, but also had some really great stories and the Ruthless Era with guys like Randy Orton and Batista and etc. Not to mention, he was a guy on the roster that never needed the world title to feel like a relevant top superstar. Like Undertaker, even though he won the world title from time to time, he never really needed it. Undertaker was always looked at as a top star, definitely the best character in WWE by far, but was always looked at as a top star in the company, whether he had the world title or didn't have the world championship. And Undertaker, to me, definitely has to be an obvious top 10 best superstars of the Ruthless Aggression Era. He's one of the people that really stood out in that era to be one of the most elite stars. I think he's a top 5 superstar in that era. You gotta have Shawn Michaels on here, man. Shawn Michaels had the best run of his career during the second run of his peak. Better than even the first run in the 1990s when he was looked at more as the top dog face of the WWE for a period of time, you could argue. Shawn Michaels also was in that same boat with The Undertaker, a guy who never needed the world championship to be a relevant top star on the roster. And Shawn Michaels only won the world title one time when he came back for his second run and had it for like a month, so didn't even have it that long. The matches that this guy had in the Ruthless Aggression Era, unfreaking touchable, man. Untouchable, especially at WrestleMania, had zero misses. WrestleMania 19 against Chris Jericho was match of the night for many people. WrestleMania 20, another match of the night, had one of the best triple threat matches in WWE history. WrestleMania 21, another match of the night, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches ever against Kurt Angle. WrestleMania 22, another match that had no business being as good as it was because he was facing a 60-year-old Vince McMahon. That no-holds-barred match was very entertaining. WrestleMania 23 was against John Cena. That was match of the night for many people. WrestleMania 24, Ric Flair, another show-stealer match, and Ric Flair was 59 years old in his retirement match. Shawn Michaels is truly the greatest in-ring performer of all time to me for many reasons because he was able to go in the ring with main event caliber superstars, superstars past their primes, upcoming superstars that they were trying to groom to be top stars. Anybody you put him in the ring with, he was capable of putting on a good match with them. And in the Ruthless Aggression Era, he had so many bangers. He definitely is in the top 10. Gotta have Shawn Michaels' good best friend, man. Triple H definitely on here. He was the best heel in this era to me. The best bad guy by far in the Ruthless Aggression Era. Helped create one of the greatest factions of all time, Evolution. And Triple H, even though they said he had the reign of terror, era in that era because he pretty much lived with that World Heavyweight title from about 2002 to 2005. Triple H still is one of the top 10 best superstars of this era. He had great matches with many superstars. Like I said, he was the best bad guy of this era, the one guy that you probably hated more than anybody, and he did his job very well. And I think Triple H was also another guy who had good success in the Attitude Era, but he was better in the Ruthless Era. I think he was a better bad guy, had better matches, and better storylines. Brock Lesnar definitely is on here, and he was only in this era for 2 years, but this guy in 2 years accomplished things that not many people do in 2 years. He won King of the Ring. He won the WWE Championship not once, not twice, but on 3 different occasions. Won his very first Royal Rumble he was ever a part of. Main evented his very first WrestleMania he was ever a part of. Brock Lesnar was being groomed to get pushed to the mountaintop when he was in WWE because this guy had the look, the athleticism. He embodied everything that WWE was looking for to be a next top star, and he excelled to the top within 2 years to be looked at as a legit WWE legend. Within 2 years! 2 years, man. This guy was already looked at as a possible WWE legend with all the things that he accomplished and all the matches, that he was able to put on with all top stars. Brock Lesnar, even though he was around for a short period of time, had a very, very, very important impact of that era. Let's talk about Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero is definitely on here, even though he unfortunately passed away in this era. God rest his soul. May he rest in peace. Eddie Guerrero was probably the most entertaining and fun superstar to watch in this era with the whole lie, cheat, and steal gimmick. Had a lot of great feuds in this era, a lot of great matches. We can't forget that big moment when he beat Brock Lesnar to win his very first and only WWE Championship at No Way Out in 2004 in San Francisco. The crowd went nuts. One of the most emotional championship wins you will ever see that would bring tear to your eyes, even still to this day, man. The nostalgia just hits so hard. Eddie Guerrero just embodies everything of what a WWE superstar should be. When I first started watching pro wrestling, my first favorite wrestler that really got me into it, that really made me feel emotions, was Eddie Guerrero. That's how big his impact was, man. Like, he touched a lot of people around the world and is forever a legend in the wrestling business. He definitely has to be a top 10 superstar of this era. Kurt Angle was another guy that left WWE during the peak of the Ruthless Era in 2006 to go on to TNA and had a better TNA career than he did WWE, but even though Kurt Angle left during the height of this era, he still is one of the top 10 best superstars of this era. And he was a part of the Attitude Era, had probably the greatest rookie year in WWE history during that era, but he was still better in this era. Had better matches, was a part of just as good of storylines, if not better storylines, peaked more as a top superstar. Like, Kurt Angle all around was just crazy in this era, man, and it sucks that he had to leave WWE due to his personal issues and everything, but if he was able to stick around during the rest of this era and the era beyond this era, think of all the matches he could have had with guys that came after him. I mean, Kurt Angle was already having top quality matches with top stars from all aspects in this era. He was looked at like Shawn Michaels was in this era. Like, Kurt Angle was arguably the best wrestler in the world during this time frame. He may have invisibility powers, but, even though he's invisible, John Cena's still going to be on here. The guy that would become the literal next face of the WWE for about a decade in this era. And John Cena had a very unique run in this era. When he first was introduced on TV in this era, he was a nobody, a guy in trunks that people didn't care about and weren't connecting with, almost got fired, then turned himself into the doctor of thugonomics with the rap gimmick, as you can call him, the WWE's Eminem. But he got that gimmick over and became super popular with that gimmick. Then he would become like the chain gang soldier, then the hustle, loyalty, and respect stuff. Once he became the guy, start rapping, and that's when the fans kind of turned on him because they're like, man, now Cena's getting pushed really heavily as the guy, and the fans were rejecting him. But even despite that rejection with the hostile crowds, didn't affect John Cena's legacy at all, because he still put on great matches, still was looked at as a top guy, and still propelled to heights that people probably didn't even know he was capable of doing. Randy Orton has to be on here, another guy that was introduced in this era, and Randy Orton, you look at where his career is at right now, literal legend. Not only is he top 10 greatest superstars in the Ruthless Aggression Era, he's a top 10 WWE superstar all time in my books. Randy Orton, third generation superstar, youngest world champion in history. This guy just has greatness in his DNA. I think a lot of us pretty much knew he was going to be destined for greatness. Triple H saw it just like many of us did, and Randy Orton, I mean, had a great amount of success in this era from all angles, from tag teams, mid-card titles, world titles, being a part of some of the best storylines, best matches, being a literal top heel within the company. Some people may even consider him being the top heel. I still think Triple H was the best heel in this era, but if people were to say Randy was the best heel, I'm not going to argue and say that's a crazy statement. Randy Orton was definitely up there. Edge has to be on here, and he was a guy that was in the Attitude Era as well, but wasn't excelling as a main event guy. He was a tag team wrestler, a mid-card guy. Didn't really become a main event bona fide superstar until this era. Became the first person to win that Money in the Bank. Then he cashed in and became WWE champion. Then later on would become a multiple-time world champion in this era. The matches that Edge had, the moments that he created are just top tier. We all remember that celebration he had with Lita on Raw. I still believe that's like the highest viewed segment in Monday Night Raw history. So Edge definitely propelled himself to become a true main event legend in this era, and another guy that you could say maybe the best heel of this era. Edge was a legit top bad guy. I hated this guy when I was a kid. I grew up in this era, so to watch this guy, Edge used to make my blood boil, man. I couldn't stand him, bro. Like, Edge was that one guy that I just did not like when I was a kid, but he did his job perfectly because he made me hate him, and that was his job to do. And you could argue Edge was probably the best heel of this era. That's not a crazy statement to say either. Last but certainly not least, Batista has to be on here. I feel like Batista is probably one of the most underrated, slept on legends that doesn't get the respect that he deserves, man. Batista is like that. I think a lot of people forget that, at one point, he was really neck and neck with John Cena as far as who's going to be the next face of the WWE. That year, 2005, we didn't know if it was going to be Cena or Batista, and it felt more of Batista at one point. So I think a lot of people forget that. Really, I think injuries and, Batista being just a lot older than John Cena was at that time really kind of propelled WWE to push Cena further. But Batista was right there at one point. And even though he may have got, outlooked as the face of the company, over John Cena, that still never stopped Batista from getting looked at as one of the top stars. He was definitely one of the most popular superstars in this era, had plenty of great matches, and Batista had a lot of great moments as well. Batista definitely is in here. I really feel like Batista doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to being not only one of the best stars of this era, but one of the best people that WWE had just in general. Batista is a literal WWE legend who should be in the Hall of Fame and will be in the Hall of Fame someday, and I think he needs more respect on his name. That's a solid 10 right there, if you ask me. You could throw some women superstars in here, too, if you wanted. I think the three names that really stick out are Trish Stratus, Lita, and Mickie James. Those are the three names that stick out because I feel like those three women were able to stand out differently on the roster in the Divas era where women's wrestling was really held back and they weren't able to excel and do things that the men were able to do like you see them do nowadays. Like, in today's era, women's superstars can be bigger stars than the men and put on better matches than the men. So in this era, just really wasn't like that. So for me, it's hard for me to remove anybody from my list because I feel like this is a solid 10. All these people excelled very well in this era, had legendary moments, legendary matches, legendary storylines. All these people that I named are pretty much icons, Hall of Famers, and legends in WWE history. And I'm a little bit biased because I'm a Ruthless Aggression Era baby. I'm not an Attitude Era baby, so I grew up in this era. I know this era like the back of my hand, man. I can tell you everything about this era from the beginning to the end, man. The best era in WWE history, to me at least. But who knows? Maybe this new era that we're watching in WWE right now, if you're still watching the current product, Triple H is now in charge, Vince is out of the door and everything. So maybe this new era is going to be looked at as the best era in WWE history because the NXT Black and Gold era is one of the best eras WWE ever had. And we saw how Triple H was able to put on a better product than Raw and SmackDown, the main roster, for years. So I think this new era, maybe 5-10 years from now, we could look back at this video and say, damn, this guy said that maybe this era could be the best era, and it turned out to be that way. So we're only in the year 2024. Who knows? Maybe in the year 2030, 2035, we'll look back and say, damn, Triple H put on the best era in WWE history. Can't predict the future. I'm not that so Raven. I'm not Sidekick, so I don't know. But make sure you guys subscribe, like, share, comment, and turn on the notifications for this channel to be updated for all wrestling content that I post on this channel and to be updated for the podcast that I'm a part of, the No Name Wrestling Podcast. We go live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time Zone, so greatly appreciate the support, man, and make sure you guys subscribe to be updated for all content. And if you'd like to be a part of the podcast that I'm a part of, We allow guests to come on from time to time who subscribe to the pod to engage and to feel like they're a part of the show, to debate or chat, whatever you guys prefer. So make sure you guys be on the lookout for that. I put the descriptions of the name of the channels, and you'll see when I have the open mic episodes. That's what the episodes are called, open mic. So when you see those open mic episodes, that's when you know that we allow the fans to come on, and we put the link in the chat for the people watching so they can join and stuff. So be on the lookout for that, and let me know how you feel about my list. Top 10 superstars of the Ruthless Aggression Era. Valid or not valid?